Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a Corgi, and we are here for conversations with a Corgi. And sorry we're a little late today. I do a whole day's work before I do this on Sundays, and it is really getting tiring. I am sick of it. I have to get up at 5 o'clock to do everything I have to do before this. Anyway, today, as promised, we're going to talk about inflammatory bowel disease in dogs, IBD as it's called. And this is a broad category name for a whole bunch of different GI diseases in dogs that, IBD translates to inflammatory bowel disease. And what that really means is inflammation in the intestines and then chronic symptoms related to the GI system. And it can affect dogs and cats at any age, but it's really much more common in middle-aged and older dogs. So my wiener friend is 12 now, and I think this began for him when he was 9-ish. So there's a problem. There are many different ways to look at this, and certainly my sister has done a bunch of Facebook Lives and stories for articles for magazines and things on this problem. And there's a thought, and I'm one of the people that subscribe to this, that IBD is really, at its base, untreated food allergies. And certainly untreated food allergies can contribute to IBD, even if there's other things going on. And allergies in dogs are way more common than they used to be because of our ways of breeding and our poor feeding for generations. But dogs are frequently allergic to chicken, beef, milk, eggs, corn, wheat, and soy. That's chicken, beef, milk, eggs, corn, wheat, and soy. And of course, I haven't had too many dogs that tolerate dairy products at all. And cats often are allergic to, what a surprise, fish, beef, and dairy products. And of course, fish is a broad category, and we have learned, certainly from my sister, with Chinese medicine, that there's a big difference between wild-caught cold water fish and farm-raised other fish. So food colorings and other additives, especially in dry food, can cause an intolerance that looks like IBD and is often misdiagnosed. And often if your dog has got a situation where he's reacting to food colorings and additives in the dry food, when they're diagnosed with IBD, you'll change the food. So if that were the problem, the dog will look better and it will look like, oh yes, we treated it as IBD when really you just took him off of the additives and food colorings that were causing his problem. And we can all see easily a lot of the foods that have a lot of dyes and additives are the ones where there's 5 shapes it's like Lucky Charms for dogs. There's 5 shapes of kibble. Some are green, some are red, some look like peas, some look like carrots. There's a lot of fake stuff to make that look like something that we would eat, that we would want to buy and feed our dogs. One of the problems with IBD in dogs is people want to know if it's painful or not. Well, we've all had a stomach ache with a tremendous bowel upset, and yeah, it's painful, but is it going to be obvious? Not necessarily, but the common symptoms that you'll see is long-term unrelenting diarrhea. And sometimes that will include mucus or blood because of the colon's inflammation. And this all actually is true for humans too. Some dogs experience gurgling and rumbling and abdominal sounds in their stomach because the liquid in the stomach is just churning and churning, and it goes down through the digestive tract, and things are trying to move along and they are moving too fast, which is why we get the diarrhea. Luckily, most dogs and cats that have IBD go on to live a happy and healthy life and can be treated successfully. In a few animals, and this is what happened to my wiener friend, he almost died from several things going on. Severe dehydration was one of them, but it can be a severe situation, and it can be fatal. He was bleeding all along his gut, and it was a big problem. So one of the things they did for him, which they'll do for dogs that are in great distress like this, is do a scope and put it up through the bum to check out what's going on in the colon and the intestines and see if this is causing some of the problems, and if there's an obstruction. Sometimes an obstruction can mimic the same kind of symptoms, and as can some other issues in the liver, etc. So what are you going to feed dogs that have IBD? Usually the vet will put you on a so-called prescription diet, which is some kind of prescription from Science Diet. As my sister has well documented, Science Diet Company was one of the first alternative foods. It came out, long ago in the 70s, 80s, maybe even before that. And that's what I fed my dog because I thought that was good. But my sister will tell you that in vet school, they really pushed this, and they pushed it as a prescription diet. And she was in vet school in the 80s, so this is a long time ago. And many of those foods don't contain any kind of life force. There's nothing live in them. And they are formulated to be whatever they're supposed to be, gentle on the kidneys, if you have KD, if you have ID, gentle on the intestines, whatever. And often, for the short term, that Science Diet prescription food, and I mean short term, couple weeks, no longer than a month, can kind of get things under control. The vet may also prescribe steroids. Again, this is often an autoimmune reaction from a whole lot of other things going wrong in the body. Unrelenting inflammation due to the allergies and things like that. So that Science Diet can get the dog back to a point where he's not pooping blood, but it is not good to keep him on such a not very quality food for a very long time. So some dogs do well getting some egg whites or even a scrambled egg cooked pretty thoroughly. And one of the other things that you can feed them often is oatmeal. That is not the same kind as the other grains. It's usually much better tolerated. But some dogs with IBD, like my wiener friend, he couldn't have any kind of roughage. So usually you think diarrhea, pumpkin. No, he can't tolerate pumpkin anymore. We have talked about RX clay, which you can get from my sister's website, which is drjudymorgan.com. And that is one of the best things to do to start to bring the dog back into balance, because the clay absorbs the water and starts to form poops again in the colon of the dog so that he's not so full of diarrhea as he was. And a lot of other things that you can do that are good for your dog is just feeding a particular protein, which is often turkey, not chicken. Turkey's a neutral food. Everybody's like, oh, my dog was sick, I fed him chicken and rice. That's going to make most IBD worse. So turkey is what my little wiener friend is on, and cooked turkey. He can't eat raw food because he can't tolerate any kind of bacteria in his gut that is out from the outside. And you're going to put a dog with this problem immediately on the clay and probiotics, because often one of the things that can cause this is long-term or repeated use of antibiotics, which kills all the gut flora. So you need to puff that back up by giving them the probiotics and sometimes prebiotics, and in some cases even the digestive enzyme will be needed for a short time. So my little buddy there can now eat a few vegetables that are good to drain the damp, and that includes asparagus and celery. He loves celery, and it has really helped him. But frequently they have had a situation where he eats a little bite of the other dog's food, or he gets something that he's eaten out in the wild, or some person somewhere will give him a treat that they don't control. And he will go back to the unrelenting diarrhea. All the things that have been added to his diet have had to be very gradual and very carefully thought out, and they certainly have done many consults with my sister regarding what's going on with their little wiener. A bland diet is recommended, so turkey is often good. Sweet potato can sometimes be good. And you have to eliminate anything that you would buy for dogs from the grocery store. All the treats, all the kibble. Eliminating kibble alone can often be a great thing. Acupuncture can be good to get them back in balance. Certainly my wiener friend has had many sessions of craniosacral therapy with me. Chiropractic has also been something useful for him to try to keep, being a long dog like the Dachshunds and the Corgis. Things can happen in the back end, and those are the nerves that go to the gut. So you got to keep the back end healthy if you want a healthy gut and all the other organs that are under the whole spinal cord back there. So he has benefited from those things, and taking more care to notice his symptoms before they become severe. I mean, it brings you all back to when you were taking care of a puppy, where you're monitoring how many poops, what they look like, how often, looking for worms and all the other things that go along with having a puppy. So my friends with dogs that have this have to really watch the poop situation, how often, how mushy, to get on top of it before it starts to get to the point where they're pooping blood and mucus. So in the case of my little buddy there, my dachshund friend, when he starts to not look like he's doing so well, his person will put him on just the turkey, nothing else, and add extra clay. And he's got a bunch of other supplements he takes. He has some Chinese herbs to help with this from my sister. And frequently when he's really sick, he won't eat anything except the turkey. He refuses all other things. And my friend yesterday, he's been in a flare-up for a couple of weeks, and she thinks it's because her crock pot started to smell a little funky that she was making his food in, and she thinks there was some bacteria in it because it wasn't getting hot enough. And then you can't put a crock pot in the dishwasher. So she feels like something was going on there that created the problem. So she immediately bumped up his clay, and then he started to refuse to eat the turkey. So then she experimented with all the kinds of turkey burger, turkey breast, turkey thighs, to try to find something that he would eat again. And after a few days, and of course fasting is always recommended when you have a gut problem in Chinese medicine and in lots of other thought. So he had a couple of days of fasting, and now he's back to eating his turkey. They bumped up his steroids. Again, not for the rest of his life, just temporarily. So anyway, he is doing great. He's now 3 years out from this flare-up that started the whole process. And, he had not just irritable bowel, but leaky gut. And, just like with humans, we're seeing this more and more in dogs because of the low quality of food out in the world. We're not getting all the nutrients that we need, and people frequently pay attention to their own diet, but not their dog's diet. And the other big issue with all of this is that vets, trainers, groomers, people that have raised dogs that might be your neighbor, they all give you conflicting information, and often it's wrong. I've got this new client, and they went to a vet who mostly treats cats that I've known, and I liked her when I met her, but they did so many things wrong. This vet told them so many things wrong that I think they were thinking, and one of them has known me for 20 years, but I think they're still like, do we believe Sally or the vet? And the vet was very incorrect about a lot of things. The immunizations, giving him too many too fast, without records for the prior, let's redo him. I mean, the little guy is tiny. Sending him home with a Seresto collar. This dachshund came yesterday with his dachshund friend, who also is already wearing a Seresto collar. Where does this dog live? Near Buffalo, New York. Do you know how much snow they have there? It's like 6 feet. And this dog's walking around in a Seresto collar. What are we thinking? They don't even have a regular collar for this dog. All she wears is the Seresto collar. And I'm like, well, did you have a problem with fleas? I mean, the dog lives alone in a house, and they don't take her much for walks. And sure, with people that are not super responsible, that may be the best thing to do for the summer months. But when you have 6 feet of snow on the ground, why do you want to put something toxic on your dog if you don't have to? My other friend and client that has a very sick dachshund with multiple things going on that we've been working with for a couple of years, she uses that collar when she goes to the Cape because there are a million parasites on the Cape looking to eat her dog with a low immune system. So yeah, in that case, sure, you can hardly do better because the amount of essential oils you'd have to put on that dog to keep them safe in that environment would be overwhelming. I mean, you'd be spraying them continuously. So anyway, a big problem with IBD is that you're going to get a lot of different opinions, and a lot of them aren't right. So, and in fact, when I was just Googling around this morning and looking on Wikipedia, a lot of the information on the internet is actually not inaccurate and supports alternative medicine, helps for this, like acupuncture. So if you've got a problem with IBD, there is plenty of information out there that you can sort through. Don't believe every vet you go to. I swear most vets push too much crap. Yes, that's true, Jim and James. Well, and the whole model now for these new vet clinics that are owned by a giant corporation is they get the vets that work there, and they pay them more than you can get like working at a place like my sister's office, because they have a lot more money. And this is why they get a protocol. They get like a list of stuff. Every client that comes in, you do these 25 things and bill them. And that's a lot of stuff. You got the office visit, and this is happening more and more. People come in and they're like, oh, you haven't had your Bordetella shot. Well, if you don't put your dog in a kennel and he's pretty old, why does he need a kennel cough shot? But a lot of vets won't see a dog, especially with these practices that are corporate, without the Bordetella shot before they walk in the door, which is ridiculous. Dogs don't need it. Bordetella is not that common. And if your dog is coming, into a kennel situation with a lot of other dogs and you're going to be out of town for 2 months, yeah, maybe then it's a good thing to do, because you don't want him to be sick when you're not there. But then you can monitor and plan ahead and give him the Thuja when he has to. That's a homeopathic that helps with vaccine tolerance. So, there are a lot of people that are irresponsible out there. Yeah, right, Jim. It's Sunday. We're preaching it. So let's take good care of our dogs. And really, just because the science diet was a great option for the first month, don't be afraid to gradually wean your dog onto some better food, because if they are not absorbing nutrients very well, you want to give them high quality nutrients like cooked turkey from your kitchen, so that they can get as much good stuff as they can. Whereas the science diet, I'll never forget, I was giving my dog science diet, and years later I went to anatomy lab to do dissection again, and I was awestruck, really gobsmacked, as they say, by how much this formaldehyde tissue I was dissecting on this dead cat looked like my dog's food. And I thought, oh my God, what is in this crap I'm feeding my dog? I have got to the smell, the texture, everything. And now I've gone on to dissect many things that were not treated in formaldehyde, and something that's been dead a really long time does not look appetizing, and it certainly isn't what I'd feed my pet. So anyway, that was my eye-opening to science diet. I was like, oh my God, I can't feed my dog this crap anymore. I've got to find something better. And certainly over the years, with the stuff that people have talked about, some of these products have improved, but they are still not great for long-term use. Rabbit is another great thing to give your dog if he's got tremendous gut problems. Hair Today, H-A-R-E, Today, Hair Today company is back, and you can get buns cubed from them. And if you are a cat person, they sell rats and mice as well. Great company, great products. They ship it raw. You can cook it, which may be a good option when your dog is suffering from IBD. This is a huge topic. I've talked about it enough today. It's a beautiful day. A couple people have said it's beautiful where they are. I still have a boatload of snow in the yard. But it's going to be 55 or something today, so I guess I'll go out and start to do some more raking because of all the trees that were cut down, and it looks like a big one fell down across the meadow, so I've got to go out there and see what's going on. Trees, they're great when they're upright, but when they're going down, they are not as much fun. So thanks for joining us today. We will be at our jobs as educators Monday and Tuesday this week, and then Wednesday, we won't be doing this because we have to run over for our agility and rally training class. It's our last class before the dog show. But we're going to try to schedule some private sessions because we need a lot of help. We practiced a lot of rally yesterday, but we need a lot of help. Gorgeous day in Maine. Well, you deserve it. It has not been gorgeous around New England. My friend posted pictures of her farm in Vermont in the snow yesterday. It was so scenic and pretty. People were like, oh, it's gorgeous. When was this picture taken? January? No, yesterday. It had like a foot of snow. Not fun. All right, we'll see you Thursday. Everybody have a great weekend and a nice week. We'll see you soon.